Jennifer Tsay is the CEO and co-founder of the professional photography platform shoot.com, whose unique business model offers free photo shoots where clients only pay for the photos they love. Shoot is proud to offer its services in over 60 US cities, support over 750 freelance photographers with supplemental income, and maintain a 4.9 star rating on Google across 2,300 reviews and counting. With a diverse background in investment banking, strategic finance, project management, documentary film producing, acting, and more, Jennifer combines her passion of all things process with her love of art and storytelling to manage growth, strategy, operations for Shoot alongside her amazing team. With her acting work, she's appeared in the other two, High Fidelity, The Village, Blacklist, Bored to Death, as well as a numerous of on-camera voiceover spots with Citi, AT&T Wi-Fi, Samsung, Geico, Manhattan Mini Storage, and more. A Forbes Next 1000 entrepreneur, and Jennifer actually recently also appeared on entrepreneur.com's Elevator Pitch season 11, and she has Jennifer, you have such a cool background. I'm so excited to hear your story. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Great, great. So I'm going to start off with the icebreaker that we ask everyone when they come on the podcast. What did you fail at this week?
Oh my gosh. Um, uh, you know what? We failed really big at this is personal, but it affected the professional. So we decided to foster a cat with her kittens for the first time. We've never done something like that, and it was the worst 20 hours of my recent life. We were just so in over our heads, and we were trying to help this. They reached out to us personally to ask us to do it because we fostered for them before, and they didn't give us any instructions. And they were like, "Oh, the mom cat should take care of everything." And as soon as we brought them home, the mom cat like parkoured into our ceiling.
Oh my gosh.
So after that, it was like 15 hours of trying to problem solve for that. And like, I was like, what went wrong? Why is it so wrong? Why, and that's what happens, when you don't properly prepare people. And there's certain there's certain things that you experience where you're like, oh my God, I can muscle through this. It's hard, but it's okay. And at some point in time, my husband and I had to be like, there's no muscling through this. This is actually not tenable. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of the 20 hours, one of the kittens also ended up passing away, the runt. It was so traumatizing. We returned everyone back and then we had to disinfect our space for a week, which affected our work. It was so epic.
Course. Oh
And
my
we were like, wow, we learned so much from this. So that's what I very genuinely failed at in the last week.
But it's so true. It's so often things in our personal life like affect our business careers, our lives, and all that. And I love what you said about like being prepared. Some things you can prepare for, some things you can't, and how to kind of know the difference. And that, like you said, that was not okay. But I'm so sorry you went through that. That's crazy. Gosh, oh my gosh. Well, Jennifer, you have such an impressive background, like I mentioned in the intro. Could you maybe let the listeners know a little bit about more of what you do, about shoot.com, about your acting, about all the things? I want to hear about it.
Yeah. So, I come from a very broad-based background. I had so many different touch points. I did investment banking, corporate finance. I produced a documentary. I planned weddings. I stocked the fridge at a hedge fund. It's so different. And really where that kind of led me to was I was like, I think I work best in startup environments. I work best when things are really different, when I'm kind of stimulated by different challenges every day. I realized I didn't like corporate work, but I did like corporate skills. So that inevitably led me to entrepreneurship. And I had no idea that it was leading me there. I just knew I was like, I like where things are different every day. And the work that I do makes a major difference versus like, oh, putting together a pitch deck and no one sees it and doesn't do anything.
Right.
So it led me to I was reconnecting with an entrepreneur that I had worked for about a decade ago. And I was like, hey, do you happen to know of any startups hiring? And also, would you mind being a reference? And he was like, that's so strange. Like I was wanting to start a new startup, but I was like trying to figure out the idea for it. So we met up together and we really talked about like my background, my more recent background, then exploring art and being an actor and having so many actor friends, people who are talented artists who just couldn't make enough to support being an artist and had to stop. And we're like, hey, can we create a business model that really addresses that and kind of addresses some of the pain points of like a gig economy for an artist. We realized that we could do it for photographers specifically by so normally when you're an artist, it's like you're trying to find gigs, right? There's a gig here, there's a gig there. You have to paste together enough work. We're like, what if we have a photographer go to one set location. We put their schedule up online, and then people can book like back-to-back sessions at the same location. So if the clients cycle to them instead of them traveling to random places
Yeah.
for the clients. And we're like, does that work? So we tested that in New York just with our friends and friends networks, and it sold out immediately. And we were like, oh, there's a real need for this. And so it took us a while to find kind of like our key audience. At first we had originally thought it was like, oh, is it influencers? It's not. It's really women that are looking to document their life stages, starting with like dating seriously and then really becoming moms and wanting to capture their kids and all of them at every stage. And your kids look very different even within like six
Yeah.
months. So that's what led us to this journey. And now, now we've been doing this for almost 7 years.
That's so fascinating. And you know what I thought was really interesting on something you just said, how you took your skill set from like the corporate space and you put it into this entrepreneurial space. Can you talk to me a little bit about like how did you connect the dots? Because I think so often women kind of leave the workforce for various reasons, or they pivot
Mhm.
in their careers, or they do different things, but they don't necessarily know how to kind of evaluate that and figure out like what are the skill sets that I'm really good at, and how can I bring that into a new season, a new era, a new
Yeah.
project. Kind of what helped you there?
Yeah. So I think when it came to corporate work, like once you learn in a corporate job, it often stays the same. Unless you're in a place with like a lot of upward mobility, you're just kind of doing the same thing. And I felt like my brain really turn off. I was like, this is really understimulating for me. And I knew that, but I didn't know how to fix it because I think it's like, it's not like I tested really well at math and like could see like what I was really good at. I was like, I know I like projects. I know I like working on things. I don't know where that's leading me. Now, corporate was really good at a point in time when like I was first starting. I learned a lot of skills there. And also like when you need income and stability, I want to really be upfront that like corporate is great for that. If you need like really strong benefits, go to like a Fortune 500 company. It's going to be there. But when I wanted more out of my career, and I'm like, where am I going to find this? Where am I going to find things that are interesting and problems that are interesting to solve? I looked on Craigslist. I looked at for different jobs that were looking for people. And my reasoning was that on Craigslist, the people who posted there didn't have their stuff together as much as if they used a recruiter. So I would customarily find random jobs there, and I'm like, let's try this out. And then I was like, you know what? I will do like different jobs, but I'll also take classes. I was like, what is it like to take acting class, writing class, dance class, pottery, like any one of those things? And I'm like, what do I like out of this? What do I not like? I will literally kind of try anything, like interest wise. And so that kind of led me to like going more and following it until I like landed entrepreneurship. And to me, I feel like for women in particular, if you are a mom of any sort, you can be an entrepreneur. The kind of skills that you have to keep your child alive and like
Yeah.
deal with that and like remember their birthday, remember their schedule, all of their appointments, all that's all it is. It's just problem solving. And if you don't like that, different. But if you're like, no, I can do that, you can. And if you apply it to something you're interested in, that is actually lower stakes than having a child in many ways because a child is a life and a business. While it is important, it's not a living entity necessarily. You
Yeah.
can really be brave and experiment there. And I want to encourage as many women to do that as possible because so many of us do not realize that we are raised to have that skill.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I love that. That's so meaty and juicy and has so much good stuff in it. I love that. And I agree with you. Everything you said, I
Right?
100% agree with you. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so many women underestimate how they can be entrepreneurs. I think so often we're just kind of like trained like you have to go the corporate route, which is great, like
Hmm.
you said, first in the beginning or for stability and all those different things. So or whatever season of life, maybe later on,
Yes.
like whatever season you're in, that's a great thing. But also like I love that. I think that there's so often it's I don't want to say gatekeeping, but I do feel like there's kind of like at least my generation, I feel like a lot of millennials, like
Hmm.
we felt like you have to go to school, you have to go get
Hmm.
your, degree, and then you have to go into a great corporate job. And that's like that's the best you can do, right? But it's like
Yeah.
so often we weren't trained like, no, you can have your own business. And you don't have to be brilliant or be born into it to, have your own business. It's kind of a little bit more accessible, like you said, that, moms and a lot of us have the skill set that we already need to
You
do that.
absolutely have the skill set. Yeah. And you can figure it out as you go. Everyone has to do that. So if you've been able to do that with parenting or whatever else you take care of, you can absolutely do that with a business.
Yeah, I think that that's so good. And, you know, you have such an impressive background, right? Because my understanding is that you're like shoot.com offers services in over 60 US cities, and to over 750 freelance photographers, and obviously 4.9 of, you know, rating out of and Google across like over 2,000 reviews. That's great. That means people are loving this. It's really helpful. It's helping a lot of people. So they're having a positive experience. My question to you is, like, how do you know, I think so often that there's a lot of business owners that maybe they want to grow, they want to, you know, go into a new city, or, you know, I don't know if you have any steps or any advice on like how do you scale the right way. Like what does that look like? How did you go from one city to the
Mm.
next? Like how did you, like, what advice would you give to someone that's interested in that?
Yeah, I think we did everything very sequentially. So we started in New York, where we're based. And then and then we decided, we're like, let's test some places in New Jersey, which is right next to us. So we started testing there, and that's actually where we figured out our target demographic, because we were testing in Hoboken, which has so many moms. And so we ended up selling out a day where it was like 50 different families had free mini sessions there.
Wow.
And it was this amazing experience where we're like, oh, okay, that's how we. So doing something sequentially and testing it, I think you have to get good at being like, this is my hypothesis I want to test. What is we call an MVP, which is minimum viable product, but what's the like lowest lift we can get to see what the results are? And that worked there. And then we decided to test it in different cities. So we're like, let's do a 6-city tour. So we went. I did it with my lead photographer at the time, and we test shot all the different photographers. We scouted out all the locations. So we built and added 6 more cities at the time, and that was 2019. And then the pandemic happened. And during then, we were like, oh my God, how do we deal with this? And we're like, the only way that we can keep growing is if we figure out how to onboard and train photographers remotely. And so we figured out how to do that. We're like, because I was doing that personally before, and we figured out how to do it. And so, really, you don't have to think about solving the entirety of your problem. I think I just recently saw, if you move yourself forward by 1% every day, by the end of the year, you make 37x progress from where you were at the top of the year, because that 1% compounds. And so that's always been what we do, is like we push something forward slightly every day, and we let it go, and then we just keep building, and that's worked out for us.
That's so good. Wow, I love that. That's so, yeah. Wow, that's powerful. And you know, my understanding is that I'm going to throw out your numbers, but I think they're really impressive, right? That my understanding is that you guys went from we're kind of, I don't know if this is recent, but
Mhm.
from 800,000 to 10 million in revenue, and you know that's super impressive. And I think a lot of, there's so many business owners or entrepreneurs that are here. You know, what would you say were the contributing factors? What were some of the things that worked really well for you? Because I think so often, you know, entrepreneurs try one thing, try something else. I don't know what advice you have in that area with someone that's like struggling to scale their business.
Yeah, no. So I think the 800 was in 2019, and then the 10 million was in 2024. So that's a 5-year span.
Got it.
Um, and the thing for us, I mean, every year we were like, how are we going to make this work? So I think I'd said before, it's really important that you kind of test your hypotheses. So like whatever that is, if you're like, hey, let's test these different digital marketing platforms and see if we can get a good CPA or good impressions or good something here, we would test a little bit. So you, in the beginning, you're quite budget constrained, right? So we were like, we have to be really good about our margins. We have to make sure that we don't test too many things and not know the results of it. So it took a lot of discipline and kind of systematically going through and being like, this platform works. If it works, put more money into it. If it doesn't work, get rid of it. And just really going through that exercise. And then once your foundation is set in like, okay, this is my core, where I'm marketing, how I'm finding clients, what works for us, then we're going through and we're like literally just documenting what's every single inflow, every single outflow of money, and where can we both save money or make more money, and then what can we add. So I think having things documented out, like a strategy kind of map, and being like, oh, we could sell packages. Oh, we could do a subscription program. Oh, we can offer these other products. If I don't want to sell the product, do I know, or can I reach out to a partner that is a really good so for example, we provide photos, right? A really good downstream product for us are holiday cards. printers of holiday cards, photo books, that kind of thing. We do not want to do that business from scratch.
Yeah.
So we partner with Paper Culture, who provides really, they provide eco-friendly printing, which we love too. So they've become a long-standing partner of us because it just makes so much sense for us to work together. So that helped also. That's more sales. That's another marketing channel in a way because they but it's like it's a mutually beneficial thing. I love finding other partners to help provide more lift because they can market for you and you can market for them. It's a nice symbiotic relationship. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of these very small incremental things, doing them in order, not getting too overwhelmed by it, but just again, 1% progress every day leads to incremental change. And like, we could barely believe that we hit 10 million,
Yeah.
to us, we still feel so new, but like it was so cool to get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love what you said. Those are really great steps and very clear and concise, like things you can do. Because I think so often, maybe as entrepreneurs, I feel that you kind of want to do all the things at once. You want to see a lot of growth. So you'll do multiple different tests at once. And then you're like, wait, but what worked? And then you have to, so I really like that how you're like really big and emphasis on sequential steps, right? Like, let's try this thing out. Did it work? Did it not? Then it's like you have to have a lot of discipline and be kind of like, no, I'm going to pace myself. It's not like, and I love the 1% versus so often I feel like entrepreneurs, like we run and we want to do a million things. We want to like eat the
Yeah.
world in a day. And it's like, no, you have to do it one day at a time. You have to take one step at a time. So I think that's so much wisdom that you're sharing. And so Jennifer, you are obviously thriving in so many ways, but was there ever a season in your life where you feel like you failed? And if so, what did you learn from that season?
I love this. So what I really appreciate is my kind of prior career in acting. So I did that for a solid like 10 to 15 years, and I still do it sometimes. And what was really helpful was that, so when I started entrepreneurship, I was very surprised, but it felt very natural to me. I like, I encounter problems, but it feels like seamless. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, that's how I knew that I kind of found what was very naturally easy for me. When I was in acting, I loved it. I very much believed in it, but it was much harder for me. I was very thrown off a lot of times by the social dynamics. I was really stressed a lot if I had to audition. It's like I could like my heart rate was like over the moon in a bad way all the time. And I was like having something working at something that's very hard for you and trying to figure that out to be like, do I just need to work harder at this or does this mean I'm naturally bad at it? And if I'm bad at it, does that mean I'm worthless? There comes a lot of things that you take really personally. And it's so much more beneficial when you're challenged to learn how to not take things personally. But I think you only learn that by failing at that a lot,
Wow,
by
that's
struggling a lot. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah, so you're essentially saying kind of that so often we're stuck in we're trying to maybe I wouldn't say force something, but we're trying to figure out like do I just have to work harder? Do I need to lean into this more or is this just not the path that I need to take? Maybe I need to
Mhm.
pivot and go down a different path and stuff.
Yeah.
That's so good. And then so you found what helped you through that? What was like
Yeah.
essentially something that helped you get through that?
So I actually was so lucky to be connected to a coach that used the time to be like, hey, I know you have feelings and fears about this, but the feelings are valid, but they're not necessarily real. So the thought behind it when you're like, oh my God, does this mean I'm untalented? I'm not smart. I'm not good enough. All of those things, you have to learn to shut those things off. I might always have the anxiety, but I don't let it make me basically crash out and spin out of control and not be able to be productive and do the work that I love to do. And so it took a lot of training for me to be able to show up on sets and whatever. And even though it's stressful, I don't know anyone, everyone's stressed out, that I can still focus with that amount of like immense energy stress around me and still do my job. And so I feel like that's given me a superpower in entrepreneurship where I'm like, I know what this is like. I know it's going to be okay. And I know how to like turn my brain on so that I stay as a good leader. I stay as a good worker for my company. And you can really trust the kind of work that I can do, no matter how stressful it is. And I absolutely credit my time in theater doing that.
Wow, that's so powerful. And so that is a superpower. I think that's amazing that you can do that. I think so often I think so many of us struggle with that, right? Like being able to I love what you said about like getting through the thoughts of like, no, I can get through this. I feel like you're kind of saying like this is hard. It's going to be hard, but I can get through this and there's maybe detaching some of the meaning from like these
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah, because I think if you're creating a narrative like I'm not good enough, I'm not talented, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, I'm not meant to do this, that's so distracting from being able to actually identify what your problem really is in that moment. You're like, I just need to be hydrated, or I just need this
Yeah.
other skill. Like it could be something as insignificant as that, or some like I need to be more comfortable or be in situations where I'm not as comfortable and not assume that everyone hates me. Like even something like that, where you're like, no, I'm going to actively tell myself that people like me. And how does that change my process? How does that change my work? And then, at work, it's instead of having this narrative, oh, we're not meant to succeed. I'm
So
like,
good.
what didn't we test yet? What have we not considered? And nothing's personal. That then you problem solve 10 times faster, 20 times faster instead of getting stuck in a narrative. Oh,
So powerful. That's Jennifer, what advice would you give? I think it's really cool how you kind of came in and I would say like you disrupted, I think. I don't know, disrupted.
yeah,
I know you used the word democratize. I'm stumbling.
democratized. Yeah.
There you go. The industry a bit, but what would you say, like, what advice would you give to someone that's maybe looking at a different industry and they have these thoughts and like things don't work well? I can completely change the way things work. Like there's a huge gap here and I can kind of go into that. I'm sure it was intimidating, but what advice would you give to someone that's looking to like disrupt an industry?
I think you should try it. Just try it. Like action leads to conclusions that are based on real world things versus anxiety and what ifs in your head. That stuff you can't ever prove until you actually do something. So, I'll give you an example. Like when we started and we're like, oh, we're a photo company. Instagram was just getting popular. Our best client is going to be an influencer. And we could have just went all in going for influencers like no, it has to work, it should work. We didn't do that. We were like, let's see what this is. When it wasn't picking up traction, we're like, what else, where else can we go, like what else can we try? So I think like it's going back to that, like letting your mind be flexible and open enough to be like, I want to disrupt, but like what's the best way to disrupt? And I will figure that out as I go, and be as open to like if I try something, looking at it and seeing how to adjust. And you should like not at all be worried about making a mistake. Making a mistake means that you are getting closer to an answer. That's all that means.
Love that. So
Yeah.
good. So good. And what two quick steps would you give to someone, you've done this like seem, successfully, I would say, where you have a very successful business now, you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't seem like you are in the struggling stages at all in your business anymore. What two quick steps would you give to someone that dreams of maybe leaving their 9 to 5 one day, but they feel stuck or feels like an unattainable dream?
I think it's good to do a little bit of testing first of like, hey, maybe pace yourself a little bit, figure out how to get your website up or your idea together, and like maybe do some of it in your supplemental time. How does that feel? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Sometimes we don't realize that we love or hate something until we literally try it. So I think it's good to like dip your toe there and then see if you want to keep investing in it. And if you are at a place where you actually have that all fully fleshed out and you're just scared, look at it. Do you have enough savings of a cushion? Do you have, investors that you can talk to? What else can you do to make you feel confident enough to try? Now, understanding that most people are never 100% confident, and that's okay. But being able to identify, am I just scared of what's going to happen? If it's just fear, jump all in. If you need a few things kind of taken care of first for you to feel really comfortable, it's kind of like dating, right? Like, why don't I want to commit to that person? And it's like, is it that we're just not compatible, or like, oh no, I need to know just like a few more things. And once I have that, then I'm like really confident, right? Like I know that you don't have like a bunch of debt, and I know you don't have this
Yeah.
crazy history, right? Once it's, you're like, oh, okay, we're good, right? But you need to kind of know those major things.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. That's great. That's great. Well, Jennifer, that this has all been so helpful. Where can people find you? Where can they like if I'm a mom that's
Mhm.
listening, where can I go find shoot? Where can I go get my photos taken? I love the concept too. I don't think we went too much into the concept, but
We didn't
pretty
actually.
cool, right? That it's pretty cool essentially that if you can walk me through that, but essentially you get to take photos and you only pay for the photos that you love, correct? Which I am a demographic because we take Christmas photos every year with my kids. Every
Mhm.
year they look different. In the past we've taken photos like for birthdays and different things. So we are one of those. I'm definitely the demographic, but can you kind of walk us through a little bit of the model and then where can people find you and where can people find, the services in their city?
Yeah. So it really came out of our business model, came out of this kind of desire that nobody likes to pay upfront for a service they might not like.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting a haircut or, it's necessary to do that. But like it's a haircut or like healthcare. Why would you, like, it's horrible to pay for like a service when someone has horrible bedside manner. So we were like, it's great to have this hook of a free photo session. It's free to book, it's 30 minutes. And then you get your digital gallery of 40 plus photos that are edited in 3 to 5 business days. And then you only pay for the photos you want because we believe in giving people the luxury of choice. You know, we want to empower people with that. And we realized it kind of locked us into this win-win-win situation, meaning it puts us on our best behavior to only offer the best photographers. It puts the photographers on their best behavior to deliver really stunning photos to our clients. And then there's a trust that the clients that we attract, if they're the right demographic, that they will respect and honor the process and pay for the photos if they're truly good enough. And on average, you know, our average client buys like at least $180 to $190 worth of photos. Even though it's free, they have the option not to. So, you know, we're really fastidious about how we run the service. We guard that 4.9 star rating like a hawk. You know, we can't make everyone happy, but we try to make, you know, 4.9 out of 5 is pretty decent. You know, and we try to really make it as friendly towards clients and photographers because we're really supporting both sets of people as clients. And in terms of finding us, you can find us at shoot with 2T, so SHOOTT.com. You can find our schedule of free sessions that are bookable on that and see all of our locations in the upper left-hand corner. And then you can follow us on Instagram at shoot with 2T's photos. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me at Jen Tsay. So follow, let me know who you are, have any questions, would love to support you guys. Also, I really believe and love when other women jump into the entrepreneurial journey. I think y'all can do it.
I love that. I love that. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that the listeners got a lot of gems and a lot of great wisdom. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.